Hello and welcome to the Minutes of the Week. When we talk about power, ask the distressed farmer who seeks subsidy from the government. When we talk about the power, ask any middle income person or a middle income family living in tier 2, tier 3. They seek continuous electricity. We remember those days. I come from that age when बिजली की खपत इस देश में इतनी ज्यादा थी कि अगर 24 में से 6 घंटे आपके पास कंटिन्यूअस बिजली आ जाए तो बहुत बड़ी बात होती थी, लोग सरकार को धन्यवाद देते थे. Coming back to 2021, of course, the situation on ground has improved, but somewhere all the stress has been transferred in the middle of the process. We're talking about distribution companies, power distribution companies, the sector overall. How does it operate? Today, we are here to talk about operational inefficiencies and, of course, solutions which will emerge in times to come. And to talk just that on the Minutes of the Week, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by Mr. Saurabh Kumar, who's the Executive Vice Chairperson of Energy Efficiency Services Limited. Saurabh ji, namaskar. बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद हमसे बात करने के लिए.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the show.
So, talking about distribution, Saurabh साहब, पहले उस पे बात करते हैं. In spite of the UDAY bailout, we are still staring at Discom debt reaching to about 6 lakh crores by the end of this financial year. Now, is delicensing the solution? Is privatization the solution? What is the solution? I mean, of course, we have talked about the problems a lot, but still, I would like to have your opinion. How did we reach such a stage? Was it political bonhomie because electricity was always used as a free subsidy and gain vote bank by various governments in this country, be it state, be it center? Or is it बिजली की चोरी जो हम अक्सर बोलते हैं, जिससे हम लोकल लैंग्वेज में कट्टाबाजी भी बोलते हैं, वो कटिया डाल लेते हैं जब बहुत कुछ होता रहा हमारे देश में. तो why do you think distribution companies have reached this stage? What is the core reason according to you that massive debt is piling on them?
So अभिनव जी, इसमें मेरा ये कहना है कि ये प्रॉब्लम कोई नई नहीं है और मैं थोड़ा सा आपका संज्ञान करना चाहूंगा 1991 में जो पहले रिफॉर्म्स इस देश में अनवेल किए गए थे
जी.
और आप अगर याद करें तो पावर सेक्टर का जो रिफॉर्म था वो सबसे ज्यादा और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण था
जी.
और उस समय अगर माय मेमोरी सर्व्स मी राइट, जब टोटल डिस्कॉम्स के लॉसेस थे वो करीब 3000 करोड़ थे, मैनेजेबल थे, वो स्टिल इन अ very good shape. The decade of 90s saw delicensing of generation sector, right? So you had a lot of private sector coming in, putting in, investing in, generating assets. But what started to happen is कि distribution companies, जो कि आपकी revenue earners हैं, they started to go into losses for variety of reasons. I mean, you have named a few, of course. Theft is one, large technical commercial losses is the other, governance is the third, leakage is the fourth, and countless. We all know what is. So in the first decade of this century, the Ministry of Power Government of India realized that the focus has to be on distribution. In the last 2 decades, the focus has really been on distribution. And let me say that UDAY is not the only financial scheme that was launched by the government. The first one that comes to my mind was in 2002, which was the securitization of dues of the state electricity boards, which came out with lots of reforms, including unbundling of state electricity boards and creating new companies of generation distribution. But if you see, while all these are measures that have been taken by Government of India, there are two real measures and reforms that have happened in the past, I would say, last 1 year, which, according to me, will possibly change the way distribution sector will evolve. The first one is called the PM Kusum scheme, where the talk is to solarize the entire agriculture consumption. And the second, of course, is the distribution reform scheme. So, while I know there are criticism that government subsidizes, etc., but in a country like India, where and let me also tell you one more statistic which you may like to refer to. If you look at any developed country, the expenditure of a household on electricity is between 2 and 3% of their per capita income, right? while in India, this proportion is about 14%. So the relative, people may say that we subsidize electricity, we do that, but the fact is it is necessary, because we have large poor people, and say the duty of the government to subsidize, whether it is agriculture or BPL households. But the good thing that is happening is the transparency of all that. The Electricity Act now very clearly said that the government can subsidize anyone, but you have to pass on move that subsidy transparently from your budget to the distribution company. So I would not single out subsidies as the real reason why the distribution sector is in a mess as it is. But just to give you the second statistics, if you look at the All India figure of billing efficiency. Billing efficiency is if you how many units that you have sold, how many units have you built. The combined All India billing efficiency is 83%, which means 17% of energy is never billed. Now we sold about 1300 billion units of energy last year. 17% is a staggering 200 billion units. If the average cost is 5 rupees per unit, we are already talking about a whole of 1 lakh crore every single year. That is never built, so there is no question of any collection.
Okay.
So this is the real problem. One is this billing issue at the distribution end, and second is mounting agriculture subsidies in all the states.
बट सौरभ साहब, मुझे अच्छा लगा आपने पर कैपिटा इनकम की बात करी. हिंदुस्तान एक ऐसा देश है जहाँ पे पर कैपिटा इनकम हैज ऑलवेज बीन डिपोर्टेड एज relevant as compared to the GDP, and our per capita income is of course amongst the lowest when it comes to the Asian economies. But having said that, when we talk about the days of the Power Finance Corporation or regional power companies which operate in giving out loans to the distribution companies, do you agree with the fact that there was some lack of governance? And I'm not asking you to put a blame here or there, but as a matter of fact, there has been a lot of misgovernance when it came to allocation of funds, allocation of subsidies, appointing the wrong people to conduct something which falls out of their ambit. It's like asking the State Bank of India to run railways tomorrow. I mean, that is not their expertise.
Well, I wouldn't be, I will not blame any Power Finance Corporation as such, because they are simply lenders to distribution companies. उनका कोई role governance में या selection of people in heading the Discoms, etc. देखिए, as I said, governance has been an issue which has been flagged for the last 20 years. But the real reforms is largely, how do you plug this leakage? I mean, regardless of the governance, how do you plug the leakage?
Right. सौरभ साहब, मैं आपके सामने एक एग्जांपल दूंगा. अगर मैं पंजाब गवर्नमेंट की बात करूं, ठीक है, like after signing the UDAY MOU, the government of Punjab has taken over 15,600 crores, which is 75% of debt of PSPCL. And this again, bubbled, this gone, this inflated. And now we are staring at a combined losses of 15,628 crores. I mean, this has been happening in the past 3-4 years.
अभिनव जी, ये सिर्फ पंजाब की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. आप राजस्थान उठा लीजिए, आप यूपी उठा लीजिए. जो इसकी मूलभूत प्रॉब्लम जी, वो मूलभूत प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आज हमारा AT&C लॉस पूरे देश में 25 से 26% है. और मैंने आपको बताया 17% तो आपने बिल ही नहीं किया जी. Naturally, you will, if we don't correct this billing and collection efficiency, these and other things will have to come every 5 years, because there is no way.
So you're saying delicensing is actually the solution, जो collection में.
Delicensing. What I am saying, and which is what the government has also now announced, you have to move over to smart metering. There is no way you can plug this hole. There are 28 crore 280 million consumers. Physically, without automation, it is impossible for you to check theft, make sure that the billing efficiency goes right up to 100%, and therefore the collection efficiency also rises. Because at the heart of it, while 83% is my billing efficiency, my overall collection efficiency is only 90%. So in effect, I'm only collecting 75% of what I've billed, and that's where you see the loss of 25%.
I'm glad you brought up that point, that collection efficiency of 75%, Saurabh ji. But after you mentioned this, after hearing what you were saying, do you think that the UDAY scheme of the government, which was very ambitious in its intent and agenda, was, I'm not saying that to pinpoint some administrative officials or the minister, but did UDAY scheme serve its purpose?
Yes, of course. I mean, if you look at the UDAY scheme, what it did was it offloaded the debt from the Discoms to the state government. And therefore, most of the state utilities, there was a dip in the gap between average cost of supply and average revenue realization, right?
But eventually, the state government, which is having this current account deficit or the fiscal deficit,
And remember, these were debts that were taken long time ago, had a coupon rate of about 10 to 12%. State government retired that debt through issuance of bonds, and the interest on the bonds was nearly about 7%. So there was a massive benefit to the state and also to the utility. But if you look at the fine print of UDAY, it also talked about smart metering, right? Which is where most of the states have started. Yes, it has not been as rapid a rollout as all of us would have wanted to see. But I think with the new distribution reform scheme that the cabinet has approved about 10 days ago, this sector will see a new direction and a new life very, very soon.
Sure. Now, moving on to the Discoms, we'll see, because there have been more of talks and less of acts. I mean, even if we pick up the ICRA recent report on the Discom debts or past reports, there have been more of conversations, less of actions. So we will see in the times to come.
So let me sorry, before you go in, we are working in about 4 or 5 states implementing the smart meter program, including in the state of UP. We have about 17 lakh meters which have been installed. I mean, of course, as compared to 280 million or 28 crores, it's a very small number, but still large enough to give us a sense where we are headed towards. I'll give you an example of UP. UP, every single month, average increase in revenue for the distribution companies is 225 rupees per meter per month. Collection efficiency has gone beyond 100%.
When it comes to smart meter, Saurabh sir, एक और थ्रेट हमारे पावर सेक्टर को साफ साफ दिखता है, वो थ्रेट है साइबर सिक्योरिटी का. I mean, power sector has been at the receiving end of a lot of cyber attacks over the last 1 year. I mean, they have originated from different countries irrespective, but power sector has been at the focus. Secondly, India is becoming a data center hub in times to come, and all of these data centers essentially will be backed by power supply. So, do you think that our infrastructure, the power infrastructure, in the days of handling Discom debts, are we equipped enough to handle cyber security threats in the coming times?
Okay, so before I answer that question, what I wanted to also add that this smart metering rollout that we are doing is unique in many ways. The first thing, of course, is, and the most important thing is that we are doing this in an OPEX model, which means the Discoms don't need to find any budget to implement smart metering. I'm taking a rental of about 80 rupees per month per meter from UP, and same is true with other states. And they in turn are benefiting by getting an enhanced revenue of about 225 rupees. So, it opens up the fact that you can leverage private sector investment at a very large scale. You don't need to look at government or state government capital. Now, this is something which is a new way of doing business, which is going to come up. Now, as far as the security is concerned, there are certain guidelines that we have been following, which is consistent with the Government of India guideline that the entire architecture is cloud-based. So it has to be, the cloud has to be hosted in India as per the prevailing laws of the land. And there is a Ministry of Information and Technology that impanels those clouds which conform to the government security norms. So we are making sure that we choose data centers or cloud which have all these security features that is necessary and required as far as this is concerned. Plus, we do a regular security audit, and there is an entity called STQC, which is under the Ministry of Information and Technology, whose job is to certify from time to time that the vulnerability assessment, what is it that we need to do. So it's a continuous process. Of course, any IT-based system is always vulnerable to attack. So you have to be ready and make sure that you have the best practices installed in your system to avoid any.
Sure, Saurabh, I'm glad you mentioned that point. Now, based, of course, you are a veteran in what you do. the kind of attacks we are seeing makes power sector not only very vulnerable but also very critical to India's infrastructure as far as IT infrastructure, maybe information infrastructure is concerned. Do you think that there would be irony in the fact that the government is allowing more private players to come into this area where this is proving out to be a strategic sector and there is a monopoly fight as well?
No. So look, it's a question of balance. I mean, while IT sector, power sector is important and strategic, so are many other sectors. The entire banking sector today works on an IT backend. So the fact is, you have to get efficiencies in the system. You talked about governance. Governance cannot just come by changing personnel wherever they are to whatever. These days, with the growing number of consumers, IT has to play a major role in any governance form. So there is no other way but to digitize the grid. And the third thing, which is why digitization is absolutely essential, is that this would also lead to higher ingress of renewable energy, because you can run programs like demand response. For example, if you look at the problems of the renewable energy sector, and we can discuss this some other day, but just passing mention, whenever there is the highest generation of electricity from solar, the demand is not there. But I can run a demand response and I say, Abhinav, if you use your washing machines between 12 noon and 5 p.m., I will give you a discount. And suddenly it goes up.
We will come to renewables in a short while, Saurabh, but before that, my one more question on this side of the business. Do you worry about monopoly in this sector? I mean, from Gautam Adani to others, they have regularly opined about Coal India's monopoly in distributing out the coal and how it performed in the last few decades. Do you worry about monopoly in the sector? Because if you consider the Mumbai metropolitan region, it's only Adani Power before the lines.
So let me back up and say that the infrastructure sector worldwide, not just in India, has always been in the hands of monopolies. Whether you name any sector, petroleum, worldwide there are maybe 5 large companies or 10 large companies. And that's why in an infrastructure sector, you need a regulator. Because and that's why the regulatory framework in this country is robust enough, sound enough to make sure that yes, even if there is a monopoly, and there is a monopoly in all the state governments also. I mean, why only talk about a few private players? Every other state government, it's a monopoly of the state government utility. But there is a regulatory framework, which is, and then the new act which is coming up, which is delicensing the distribution sector. I think that's a step in the right direction, where you can have multiple people at the distribution level.
So you agree that monopoly is the way forward as far as infrastructure and distribution is concerned?
But this is a traditional, I mean, monopolies have always been in the infrastructure sector. But what I'm trying to say now, moving forward with this government coming out with the amendment bill, it's going to create delicensed distribution, which means theoretically there could be 10 people who can be offering electricity services in your and my home. I have the choice, just the way anywhere in the Western world it is.
Sure. Saurabh, this was really very interesting. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for talking to Businessworld. And we hope we do not address and talk about the same problems we are talking when we have this conversation next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Thank you.